Welcome to Hanif Bismi show. This episode, we talk about a serious matter and very important. It's domestic violence. Zero tolerance to domestic violence. Domestic violence can happen to anyone of any race, age, sexual orientation, religion, or gender. It can occur any range of relationship, married, living together, or dating, anywhere, anytime. According to the United Nations, domestic violence is a pattern of behavior in any relationship that is used to maintain power and control over the partner. Abuses including physical, sexual, emotional, economic, psychological, threats of actions to influence another person. According to Medicine and Community publication, they published on 16th of October this year, domestic violence is a major public health problem and is very common in women attending clinical practice. Women experience domestic violence at far greater rates than men do. And women and children often live in fear because of the abuse that is used by men to maintain control over their partners. The terms violence, abuse, and battering are frequently and interchangeably used. In studies of Australian community, domestic violence is usually taken to mean partner abuse, specifically physical violence between male and female partner. And I welcome to Hanif Bismi show two wonderful ladies. They are expert in this field. Welcome Ms. Phoebe Baker and Ms. Nasreen Hanifi. Ms. Baker is a certified divorce and life coach trained in the US and recognized by the New York Bar.
Yes.
She's also a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner and founder of Divorce Support Collective. So welcome and thank you for coming to Hanif Bismi show and on behalf of 5 News Australia.
Thank you for having me.
And Ms. Nasreen Hanifi is a qualified and trained psychologist. She has her own private practice. She's a president of Mission of Hope and director of clinical operation of Hayat House, senior clinician and manager of the community counseling team in the drug health service team in Southwestern Sydney Local Health District. She's a PhD candidate and a clinical supervisor for psychology candidates and HRD students. Welcome and thank you for coming, Ms.
Thank you
Hanifi.
for having me.
So could you, Ms. Baker, could you please tell me a little bit of brief about your Divorce Support Collective and linguistic program practitioner?
Yes.
Just briefly to the audience.
Yeah, sure. I set up Divorce Support Collective to help men and women going through divorce, and really it was to help them avoid a lot of emotional and financial mistakes and to educate people. So we've done courses, so you can actually go online and do a course, and it's really to help with every facet. We've done parenting plans so that people don't have to have lawyers involved. They can do their own parenting plan if they get on well. And it's also to help people save money. So we did a financial organizer, because we did practical things, but we've also done a course of should I stay or should I go, which really helps you understand whether you should leave a relationship, whether it be due to abuse. It goes through all sorts of questions. And
my question about the domestic violence now, I will ask you,
yeah,
because you are the expert, and what is the extent of domestic violence in Australia? How has COVID-19 lockdown impacted the level of domestic violence?
Yeah, that's a good question. At the moment, we're losing 1 woman a week to domestic violence.
1 woman a week?
So a death, like that's someone dying.
Oh, that's...
Which is, that in
alarming.
itself is a pandemic.
Yeah.
And so with men, it's meant to be 1 in 16 will be abused at some point. But I mean, by far it's more women.
Yeah.
And in terms of COVID, I think, which I'm sure you'll agree, after lockdown, if there were already problems within the marriage, the problems are just magnified. Because of lockdown, you've also got a lot of uncertainty, financial insecurity, and also alcohol and drug intake has gone up. I mean, alcohol has definitely gone up, and when there's alcohol and a lot of drinking.
What do you mean is during the lockdown, people are more stressed out the future and and they intend to drink more alcohol and drink.
Yes.
That make you for a more violent towards a partner, because partner is 24 hours in front of
Definitely.
person.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And my next question is, what are the different forms of domestic violence?
Well, of course, physical, emotional. There's a lot of 90% of people who are domestically abused, or where there is family violence, there's financial abuse. So that may be not allowing your partner to work, taking full control of the money, so that one of the partners does not have access to money. What is on the rise is technology abuse, which is spyware, like apps put onto telephones where they can follow their partner, follow the wife or husband, usually the wife. Then you've got there's also spiritual abuse, where the partner will not be able to practice their religion. What else?
Normally, when the domestic violence means, people's image is a physical violence.
No, it's not just physical.
No, physical. That's what mainly people think about. But as you said, psychological and economical violence, which is it's not visible that much, but it's very
it's prevalent.
Yes, because like you said, no access to finance, and using don't allow it to go for work and independence. And
yes.
So that's good. And plus, you said the electronic violence. I haven't heard about it.
Yes.
And it's very, because we all depend on digital thing. And that's a new form of domestic violence as well. Thank you very much. And now my question about to Ms. Hanifi. As a president of Mission of Hope, could you please explain the services of Mission of Hope and Ayat House, and it can help the victims of domestic violence?
So Mission of Hope has been in operation for about 18 years, 17 to 18 years, and the whole purpose of the organisation is to help raise education and awareness around specific issues that affect our community. It's not limited to the Muslim community, but we do cater specifically for them. And then part of that is to then run specific programs that help in with those issues. So, for example, we run a drug and alcohol program, so it's called the Hayat House.
The Hayat House?
Hayat House, yeah. So we run a counselling, information and referral and case management service for a lot of people in the community. And we also have Hayat Line, which we just launched this year, which is a telephone crisis line. So for people who live interstate or don't have can't access services face to face, that they can actually go call someone and do brief intervention with the clinician on the line.
Do you handle lots of domestic violence related cases?
We do get lots of domestic violence related cases. I mean, domestic violence and drug and alcohol abuse are very
hand in hand.
They go hand in hand. Particularly, we've seen a bit of an increase since COVID-19 because of that. So they do go hand in hand. So we do have a lot of clients that come in who are in abusive relationships or have left an abusive relationship.
Okay, thank you very much. My next question to Ms. Baker. What are the steps the victim to take during the domestic violence, and whom should they contact?
Well, I think firstly, the first step to take is to have a plan. Like, you really need to have a plan in place if you're deciding to leave, because usually it gets a lot worse when a woman is planning to leave. So we've done a domestic violence safety plan, which you can download on our website, and it has everything, like from packing a bag to all the documents that you should have ready if you're planning to leave. And that is the most important thing. I mean, to have a plan in place, to speak to someone who you trust, to a family member or a really good friend. There's also counselling. I mean, you can call 1-800-RESPECT, or in every state there's the DV hotline, which if you go onto Community and Justice, the Community and Justice website, you can access that. But it's really, I can't stress enough how important it is for someone to plan it.
There's a hotline for it in the police department, or?
And also you can contact the police if it's very bad, if there's a lot of abuse, and if it's spiraling, escalating, and you need to call the police, you can ring 000 and then talk to the police, and then the police can help you move. But I mean, if you already have the feeling that you're going to have to leave, it's really important that you have your identity and have everything in order, so that you've just got it there. If you think that things are bad, that you can actually use, have an overnight bag, have whatever you need for your children, hide it somewhere and have it, so that you're just not fleeing without anything.
Okay, thank you very much. And my next question is, when should the victim leave, and where can the victim can go?
I'm sure that this is a really hard question because there's no
but
specific.
Because at the domestic violence situation, people always give a second chance and again chance. Then it's worse. Then it will be too late.
I think
so. Yeah,
people
if you, as a psychologist background, you can
people,
tell.
I think I can speak obviously on behalf of clients who have stayed in relationships. I think there's this, hope. I live in the hope that perhaps the relationship will change at one point or another. So they go back. And there's circumstances such as family, ties. There's obviously kids that are involved.
Cultural background as well.
Absolutely. I don't have a lot of family contact, because part and parcel of domestic violence is that, the partner will usually use control to financially control them, sexually control them, family control, so no contact with your family members. All of that seem to sort of be a part of the relationship. So people usually go back again and again because they don't know any other way out of it. But I think the whole purpose is to, when we have services like, 1-800-RESPECT and our services and obviously your service, it's about empowering women to have the ability to get the resilience and the strength to decide to move out of a relationship. And because specific cultures, the subcontinent regions are very common in this, nobody wants to talk about domestic violence. Nobody wants to talk about the abuse that happens. And we were talking about this before, our definitions of abuse in our cultures varies because oftentimes we've normalized them. We've normalized abuse that, I saw my father be abusive to my mother, so hence that's what a relationship is all about. So the violence continues. Absolutely. So the violence continues, and then to break that becomes really difficult. So it's all about educating and raising awareness and empowering women or men. This is how you should actually look at it, and it's a really hard question to answer because every story is different. Every journey is different. Some women stay in domestic violence relationships for 35 years, and then they leave. Some stay for a year and then they leave. Really, the journey for each one of them is completely
what
different.
That means is it's not, even though domestic violence happened, and as we said, 35 years, and it means it's not going anywhere. It's staying there in the relationship.
Yeah.
So it's too
I
late.
think it comes to a point where a woman or a man realizes that, I've given everything. I've tried and nothing has changed for 18 years or 35 years or 40 years or whatever it is. So I've given every ounce of my being to this person and nothing has changed. So I'm now at that junction where I have to decide if I leave, if I stay, I could potentially die, or I could leave. And still, the end result will still be the same, wouldn't it? If I stay or leave, it's still going to be the same.
And the other thing that I went and did a lifeline course in domestic violence, and they said that when it gets to the point physically where your partner is choking you, usually that leads to death.
Yeah,
Mm.
and that becomes a
and
very
recently
scary
there was
thing.
in the news a couple of weeks ago, one 24-year-old woman was murdered.
Yes.
This very, and she's a model, and this was in the newspaper.
Yeah,
So, have you come across in your organization through anything like such thing?
yeah, lots. Yeah, at the moment, I treat a lot of women who've gone through domestic violence, and I've treated some of the worst cases in New South Wales. So yes. To be in a relationship for such a long time and to be tortured, raped continuously, ridiculed, and obviously belittled, your worth, as a woman or as a man gets diminished to a point where, you become lifeless. So death, they even sometimes usually say, they make comments that, I prefer that. I prefer death than staying alive and living through this torture.
So, as my next question also to Ms. Hanifi, because you work specializing in a particular community, how does the community and authority are working together to stop domestic violence?
I think in our community, if I'm going to be honest, there is a lack of education. Or if there is education, nobody wants to talk about it. The stigma and the stereotypes that attach to domestic violence are still very prevalent in all of our cultures. I can't say, this culture is better than this and they've touched it really well. No, it's across the board. Every single culture lives with that same stigma and stereotypes that domestic violence is a taboo topic, nobody should talk about it. I mean, there are some, organisations that work with authorities to help combat the issue, but there needs to be a shift in the way we see and perceive violence, and in the way there needs to be more than education, because I don't think education is the answer.
So that's a good answer. And my next question is to Ms. Baker. And for your organization, the one you talk about, so what you have provided to the community as like the same question I want to ask to community and your organization working together to bring awareness?
Yes. We did an advertising campaign when we went into lockdown. I thought to myself, this is going to get a lot worse with people being at home, being in the same house when things are already bad. It really frightened me, the amount of people that would be abused in domestic violence situations. So we did an advertising campaign which is on air at the moment, and for people just to go to the website and get a safety plan, so that if they needed to go and leave, there was a safety plan there for them. And it also lists all of the organisations to get in contact with. And it has really specific practical things, like what you need to take with you, what you'll need to go if you need to go. It also explains what domestic violence is, because sometimes people don't understand that they're being abused. So, that's what we've been working on at the moment. And also, we're working on doing a website at the moment where there are the steps of where to go to, because there's so many different websites with the government that what we wanted to do is just do one website where people can go to and they can find out what exactly are the next steps to take.
Okay. You mean an umbrella organization?
Yeah, to give other...
Having said all these things, have you find it out what is the root cause of domestic violence? Even a country like Australia, it's a very alarming number of them. So what is the root cause? Have you come across with any?
Would you say that it's about power and control?
Yeah, and fundamentally the root cause of any type of violence is this inability to process, for example, psychologically emotions, the relationships that you were exposed to yourself as a young child, which then sort of carries on to your adulthood. So then you continue that violence, and when we normalize violence and when we don't speak up about it, we're saying that it's okay. So you can actually hit your sister, for example, and everyone's okay with it. No. that needs to change. The language, the education inside the home needs to change. But the root cause of it could be a number of factors. Could be trauma, could be sexual assault as a child, could be attachment issues when you were growing up, could be drug and alcohol abuse yourself. So I don't think there's one root cause. I think there's a myriad of root causes.
And inferiority complex within the relationship.
Yeah,
That's what I come
absolutely,
across.
absolutely. If a child is, for example, raised in an environment where both parents are unavailable emotionally, that causes a lot of attachment issues as they grow older, which means that they can't then understand relationships. They don't know how to be in a relationship. And then it leads into this whole, power and control, because they feel a sense of insecurity. You'd probably have a lot of women that say, there's a false sense of insecurity and I'm not willing to show that to the rest of the world. So I need to be controlling, I need to be powerful.
Okay.
And I find I'll go after women or men that fit that criteria.
So what's your recommendation for people who are in such a situation and for the authority as experts in the field? What is your recommendation for?
Okay, in all honesty, I've always said this, that early intervention is far better than prevention. So if we can educate young kids in school, what is appropriate behaviour, when it comes to interactions inside the school with other little girls or with boys, how do we interact and how does violence actually look like? Because we don't do that right now. And even though independent schools and even public schools try to facilitate for that, we don't do enough of it. I think for me, if we nip it in the bud in those early stages,
that's good.
Then maybe in the future we might have better outcomes. But right now we don't do that.
At the schools level,
I think so too.
we have a sexual education and
I agree.
Yeah, but we
And
have
also
parenting support groups in
parenting
schools as well.
But also in schools, educating children what is domestic violence, what is financial abuse, because really it can happen to anyone. It's not.
So what we recommend is to especially the education board and the government and authority, that should be started from the school stage, that we should educate the children what is the relationship is and how you respect your partner. Because individuals are not same, and especially when a relationship, we are from two different DNA, we coming together, living together in under a roof. So it's lots of complications, lots of understanding needed. So education is the best place. And I would like to say, on behalf of Hanif Bismi Show and 5 News and my audience, always zero tolerance to domestic violence. And no, no is the red line for domestic violence, and no tolerance. Never tolerate it. And as soon as you feel it, you have to talk about it. There is nothing to shy about it. There is no shame on it. You have to talk about it. This is your life. And not only your life, people who depending on it, their life as well. So what we have to say to my viewers on behalf of 5 News and on behalf of this wonderful guest, no and zero tolerance to domestic violence. And thank you very much for listening, and wait for next episode. Goodbye.